You'll know the
Cheers.
game. Yeah, David, you'll know the game. You'll be excited. All
I
right.
drunk out that Georgia Bulldog.
Yes. Yes.
Come on, Tanya and Shane. Come
I
on.
know it.
They failed.
They failed. All right. So, hey, good afternoon. I'm here with Mr. Rhett Jones and Mr. David King. Thank y'all very much for joining the, right now it's called the Disco Davo Lender Dude. I'm changing the name every podcast. So feel free to add some recommendation to what we should call it. I don't know. I'm struggling between professional and
What's the rating on this podcast?
it's got 1 star.
Well, I mean more of it. Is this NC-17 or is this rated?
Yes, I love that YouTube allows you to hit not for kids. So every one of them I've hit that. And I did some research and it said, unless it's intended for kids, you should always hit not for kids.
Gotcha.
So It does you better. So FYI. So, all right, we're here to talk about lacrosse. So we've got 2 gentlemen here that I think have fascinating stories. Both are highly skilled experts at their craft, but they started at different phases in life. So, Rhett, you started lacrosse in middle school or earlier? When did you start playing?
Probably like 3rd or 4th grade.
Okay, so pretty young. And was it your one sport? You played both fall and spring, or were you a 3-sport person?
2 sports. We started off with football. That was kind of my bread and butter. And then when I found out you could get some exercise in and still hit people in the spring, and I went baseball. Nothing against baseball, but I just liked a little more contact.
Yeah.
So we signed up for it. I played for Mike Fitzgerald.
Ah, okay.
Plumbing, little plug there.
I got a comment on that because I went back and watched some highlights, and you played defense, right?
I did.
Yeah, I saw some hits said, you got to keep your head up. You were knocking the crap out of people.
Cheap shots are legal.
Yeah.
Just make it count, right?
That's, let's just get right to it because I've had one son that's played lacrosse for 1 season. Well, both kids played 1 season. And the hitting is just, I guess, at different levels. It's pretty brutal what you can do. What can you do with a stick and what can you do physically with your, let's just call it your face mask? Where can you put your face mask on? Like, we know the rules with football.
Right. Yeah, I think it's changed since I played. I coached the 8th grade Stars middle team, or at least I did this year, the middle school team. And now you're not allowed to lower your shoulder. But when I played, you were allowed to make shoulder contact, but if you lowered your head at all, it was a penalty. And then slashes just depends. Slashes where you chop your stick, swing your stick, and if you don't make contact on their stick, usually it's a penalty.
So the stick, but you don't, you have to make it look like you're going for the ball? Or, because, I see them just beating the hell out of them when they're running down the field. They're not really going for the ball. They're just trying to disrupt them, right? Or
It's more of the wrist. As long as it looks like you have your head and then you got your shaft of the stick. I think as long as you're going for the shaft, that's what works.
Some are better at disguising that than others.
Yeah.
But,
Now the rules different. So David, just to jump over to give you some, basis of what his responses are. David never played lacrosse his whole life. He was, I guess, did your son ever play?
Yeah, no.
So he played too.
When I moved back to Fayette County, my kids went to school. They brought home a flyer. They were both in 3rd grade. And they're like, we were in that phase. We want our kids to play everything. Just try it all, figure out what suits you. And they both played. So Nate played up till about middle school, and Ryan played all the way collegiately. So
Okay.
she played.
But your success has been with women's lacrosse.
The girls' side, yes.
And the rules are different.
Oh, couldn't be any more different. Apples to oranges.
So, all right, is the helmet different?
There is no helmet. Well,
that's right. I knew there was something. So the girls some of them wear a face mask.
They wear goggles, basically.
Or goggles.
Yeah,
but no helmets because they're not allowed to strike the same way, or
there's not the same contact level. Like you can't make any contact to the head at all, and there's pretty explicit rules to keep you away from that. Plenty of kids choose to wear hair gear, or it's a different kind of helmet too, but in my experience, that almost invites contact. I think the referees in general are a little more liberal when you wear a helmet. So there's a pros and cons to it.
Do they wear it because they feel like they might get contact, or do they wear it because they're the type of person that I'm out there hitting people, I want to be protected?
I mean, it's a personal choice. I mean, there's really a lot of data. They've been using it in Florida for longer than a decade. It's required down there in high school. But a lot of the concussions, believe it or not, in girls' sports occur with them actually hitting the ground versus a stick hitting their head. And really that helmet, when it comes to that, doesn't really prevent concussions per se, is my understanding, because the brain still shakes or spins on brainstem. So the girls' side, very few of them is because they get a ball to the head or stick to the head. It happens, but not very often.
The ball's hard as hell.
It is.
It's hard as hell.
Yeah.
Like moms and dads out there,
God bless the goalies. Is all I gotta
the
say.
goalies, but even for me, when I would try to throw in the backyard with my kids, you take one off the stick to the face,
Oh yeah.
it'll leave a mark.
Yeah, it's just as bad as baseball for sure.
I think it's worse than baseball.
Yeah.
That ball's hard.
We don't have the stitches, so that
That's true. That's true. So it's more of a
worse.
blunt, so you can hide it. All right. So Rhett, you played in high school, 3 years on the varsity,
Yes, sir.
and you played. So for Peachtree City, is there rec? Is it competitive travel, or is that one and the same thing?
So there's rec. There was Peachtree City Warriors when I was growing up, and then once we got to middle school, Joe Lopez kind of started / pushed for GMSA, which is the middle school teams.
League, yeah.
Like your up north teams. 'Cause that's
Is it tied to the school?
Loosely, yeah. So it's a little bit of a mix. The schools have to approve it. They have to support it, but it's not directly funded by the schools.
But like
so
if-
it is like a feeder program.
So if Stars Mill had a middle school program, but
they were the
McIntosh
first.
did not, could a McIntosh kid go over there and play?
4 exceptions is what I've been told.
Yeah. So there were some limitations.
4 exceptions.
So you have your district just like high school.
Okay.
And they're allowed 4 kids from out of that district to come play on that team if they can get them.
And so now,
Even if that team had one, could you still do it? So if McIntosh did have a program, could you get an exception just to recruit? Okay. What were we going to say?
no, I was just going to say, but now you do. Booth has a team, Rising Star has a team, and Whitewater Middle has a team.
Trinity.
Okay.
And Trinity does as well.
Yeah.
So it's grown a lot in that middle school competitive league, which is a benefit to everybody, I think. So
Okay. So how was, I guess I got one question. Like, so I've got friends that have little kids in lacrosse too, and they seem to dominate a lot of tournaments they play in, the Peachtree City teams. But yet there's no other lacrosse really. So Coweta has decent lacrosse, right? They have good lacrosse there?
yeah, I mean,
Like, I don't know why we never played
They really
them.
don't have a developed youth program. They've tried for years.
So they don't. Okay.
For the most part, Peachtree City is by far and away the one lacrosse community south of I-20 that is consistent and has teams every year and everything else. Occasionally, Henry does. Macon's had their little run. But we have a lot of kids that come in from out of county to play because there's not developed lacrosse programs below I-20 now on the north side of town. Pretty much every community has a lacrosse program now for the most part.
Okay. So, I mean, do you think the coaches are just really good down here, or is it because you're the only one with a program, you have more kids? I'm just wondering why, through my experience of watching, these teams down here come out of Peachtree City are pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Like they
let
carry their
Reddit's
weight.
right, yeah.
They carry their weight when they go to the north side where there's lots more teams.
I'd say it's more resource based. I feel like we live in a fluent area and lacrosse is not a cheap sport.
Yeah.
And then you also have Liam Banks and those guys kind of come down, which he played at Syracuse, brought
Yeah.
you with them. They put mini camps on, all that stuff. And I feel like that's what really kind of grew it to what it was before he left. So I think that's kind of the main reason why we developed it so well in this area. Again, it's not a cheap sport. You got to travel up on the weekends to play those good teams. And I don't know if other areas are quite as fluent as us in that aspect.
So, and Liam, is he coaching at Syracuse now? Didn't he get? I know he moved up north, but I feel like he might be.
I'm not certain if he has.
I think he might be on their staff. Because I remember seeing him get some promotion, or maybe his son's. No, his son would be a senior.
His daughter's playing there.
His daughter's playing there. Okay, maybe that's what it was. Great guy, great basketball player too. And he was what, the #1 ranked player when he was in college? When he?
I'm not certain.
Did they win a
100% of his
championship?
resume. They won a national title when he was there. He was a very successful attack player there. I mean, I'm sure chances are he holds some records or at least top fives. Pardon me, but he, I don't know his complete resume, but he's an excellent lacrosse player. Played, some collegiate or some pro afterwards. So yeah, he was a big.
And then he
benefit.
coached
He's
the
a big
semi-pro team here in Atlanta for a while.
He did, yeah, the Blaze.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so he was a huge benefit to us, him and his family when they were here, and we'd be grateful for the help they grew it. But I think a lot of it too is in my experience growing up playing your traditional sports, baseball, basketball, and football. I've always felt like lacrosse community is a very close knit community,
Right.
and I think part of that was a lot of synergy and pulling in the same direction. I mean, the parents were supportive, at least in my experience, as being a part of Peachtree City Lacrosse. So I think that kind of added to the success of the program too, as we all kind of had the same, focal point on where we wanted to get to.
Right.
So, and it's a great. Just look at the local high schools. We're competitive in just about every sport we play in. So that's not a surprise either.
Well, you've used the word success a couple of times. So both of these gentlemen have careers outside of lacrosse, which we'll get to. But you, David, again, never played. You coached your kids in Little League just because probably nobody else wanted to, and you just like being involved. But then you played for 3 state championships, correct?
That's correct.
And won 1.
That's correct.
How?
Well,
Chris Beardsley is a big reason.
It is, of course. Every Batman needs a Robin, and I'm happy to be the Robin, So with that being said, a lot of it was just identifying kids, getting them to try a sport that wasn't, chances are the parents didn't play it. Trying to get them to try something different. And very few kids that I experienced didn't fall in love with the game. And so that allowed us at an early age to start with a small nucleus, and it just kind of built and built and built. But a lot of it was just, a lot of the things carry over. I'm kind of a basketball guy. Lacrosse is unique in that if you play baseball, the hand-eye coordination helps you a ton. If you played soccer, the fitness part of it helps a ton, the spatial awareness, because the fields are virtually the same. And then lastly, basketball, defensive, the way your footwork works and how you play defense and things like that are very helpful from basketball. So any of those kids that have played any of those sports, they come in like 1/3 there. And then it's just a matter of the basic fundamentals, teach you, throwing and catching, and then, a little bit about the rules. But it immerses all those sports that most of these kids and their parents grew up playing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and this, I think was pretty cool with the girls sport, because you have a lot of people. You're not begging for players to play when you were coaching, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No,
you had a lot of, and so the barrier to entry, I guess financial we talked about, it's tough to come up with the money, but y'all rent equipment, right?
Yeah,
so if you don't have it, you don't have to know what to buy. Show up and they will suit you.
A lot of kids will rent equipment that first season until their parents kind of start figuring it out and making sure that their kids are going to continue playing, and then they'll go invest in the equipment that they want, But it's a good starting point. We really treat that as a pass through. That is not a profit center for Peachtree City Lacrosse. We just want kids to get a stick in their hand and try it,
right,
and give it a chance. And then at that point, once they've hooked, we'll help them get the equipment that will help them progress.
And for high school. So you coached high school the majority. Well, I guess you brought them up, but most kids make the team. All kids make the team. I know we said you're not begging for numbers, but
so you
don't have to be great to make the high school team. Where you think Fayette County soccer, you better be travel ball or you're not making the high school team.
So I will say, since I started, the success, and this isn't to say that there wasn't success prior to my involvement with Peachtree City Lacrosse, by no means, but it feels like the consistency's got there. Like consistently every year, the local high schools they're either there or they're better. Would you agree with that, especially on the boys' side?
Absolutely, yep.
And on the girls' side, it's the same way. And, it's kind of a culture thing. I mean, once you start getting that momentum built, kids want to be a part of something that looks fun, it's fast-paced, and, everybody likes to play something with an opportunity to win. So as we got more competitive, it naturally brings kids in, and it's such a great sport. I mean, it really is. If I'd have been exposed to it, I was a big baseball guy as a kid, but if I'd have been exposed to it when I was 7 or 8 years old, when you played the outfield and the ball was never hit to you, I probably would have loved lacrosse.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it pulls the best of so many sports.
It does.
Like, I think the reason I wouldn't have loved soccer was because you didn't have that contact. Right. Even though you bump a little bit, but you don't really get to clean somebody out. Where lacrosse you can. But is there also a room on the field for lacrosse for the kid that does not want that much contact? Because I don't want people to think that you've got to be a brute to play. There's positions that, and I could be wrong, are there positions where they are not full on banging each other? Is that more of a defense, they hit each other? I mean, everybody's going to get hit, obviously, if you got the ball, but
it feels like early on there's a lot of awkward contact, like it's not deliberate, when they're younger. Yeah. A lot of it almost is like two kids going for a ground ball and running into each other. As you progress and you get better, there's a fine line there, and Rhett's better to speak at this than I am, but you got to be selective in the contact you make at the higher level you get, because you can get embarrassed if you don't make adequate contact. A kid will embarrass you. So I'll let him speak more to that, but especially on the boys' side.
If you're going for it, typically, at least down here up north, the refs are completely different. So down here, you're probably going to be sitting in the box, which is when you get a penalty, which is 2 minutes usually, I think. And you're man down, so you got 5 versus 6 on the field. So if you're in a big tight game and you're up by 1 score, that can cost you. But I think what I was always taught is teaches someone a lesson. If I got hit one good time and I was going to score again, I'd be thinking a little more. Everybody's
got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Right. And I think the way that I was always explained when I was growing up, Z always told us, your attacker, your people that want the show guys, they want the praise. Your middies are kind of just your dogs. They just run, get beat up, get the ball from one side to the other. Also are pretty good players, and then your defense is supposed to be the thugs. And
okay.
That's kind of why.
That's a great breakdown. I love. Would you say a lot of middies are small too? And maybe it's just little league. Like when I know when Max's team and Aiden's team, those kids that were fighting for the ball, that were the most skilled, were the tiny. They were little, but they were fast.
Well, and as you start getting in, the size, and it'd be awesome to talk to Lynn Banks about this, because we've had this discussion a lot of times. His size in college is not what you see out of an attack player now. Like the kids just get bigger and bigger and stronger and faster, and better athletes are translating over to lacrosse that maybe were an average football player and now they're a really, really good lacrosse player. And so, you've got some big kids playing the sport now, and some of them are middies. And it just depends.
Yeah. So I think we're bouncing around different levels. So I'm trying to, really, I love the sport for kids, just because both my kids oddly loved it, but just didn't want to play again. And I absolutely loved watching it, and would love to have played it, but we'd never made it to the higher level, which I'm considering high school. So I don't even know what the size looks like. So I don't know. So what are you doing now with lacrosse? Because you are a working man, but you still are very young and athletic. So how do you stay on the field?
I always toss, but I have buddies that still play, so I keep up with a lot of the kids I play with on my travel team still play at the collegiate level, so it's fun to watch that. But I usually take a break till about fall is when we usually kick off. I'll be in the talks with the coaches for Stars Mill and Peachtree City, but I kind of take a little time off because it's kind of something like riding a bike. Once you kind of learn how to do it, you can pick it back up and go right.
So what do you mean you're being in the talks with them? Like what you want to, like, you don't know who you're going to be coaching? You coached a select team or something?
Correct.
I saw?
So the past 2 years I coached a select team because I was more asked to do it, and I kind of felt like I could fill a need there. But my goal would be to start with like a younger age group and then trickle up with them.
And stay with them, because that's what you did. Like how many players would you say you went from 10 years old to state champion at Stars Mill?
So when I was coaching Warriors, Peachtree City Warriors, and then travel ball, which we just called Warriors in the summer and the fall, it was a really mixed. It was a Stars Mill kids, McIntosh kids, some Whitewater kids. So you had the 3 county schools represented. But then we would pull in kids from Auburn, Alabama. I had a kid come all the way from Gulf Shores to play. And so with that being said, several of them, and this is probably the thing that one of the things I'm most proud of that we built as a community in lacrosse on the girls' side, is so many of them went on to play collegiately, whether that's club level, Division I, and everything in between. It's and a lot of them are returning and coaching, and that is a testament to their love of the game, because that's another level of commitment when you start coaching, that you have to give up some things, and to see these ladies going and coaching now, it's really what it is about at the end of the day. It's just Ryan started in 3rd grade, and you just start attracting different kids, and some of her best friends to this day are McIntosh kids or Whitewater kids or whatever that she didn't even go to high school with. Yeah. So they built that camaraderie through the competition on the field together, and quite honestly, the fun they had off the field together in these travel tournaments and everything they did.
That's a big part of it.
It is
a big
100%.
part of it. 100%. And Ryan played, your daughter played at the University of Georgia, that's considered a club team, right?
It is, yeah.
Which is basically the same thing, other than, you're still tryouts and they still travel and play Auburn and everybody else.
Yeah, she was fortunate enough that it gave her the best of both worlds. We're huge Georgia fans. She grew up loving Georgia. She had opportunities to play collegiately on scholarship at different places, but inevitably she decided she wanted to go to the University of Georgia. She wanted the experience, the education, football, all of it. And Lord bless, she got 2 national titles while she was there, right? So
In football.
In football, correct. I wish. Yeah, we'll get to the other part in a
Yeah.
second. But she started playing there. Back half of the 2 COVID years, she really didn't have a freshman year at Georgia. But she was fortunate enough the 3 years she played there, they played for 2 national titles and 1 semifinal berth. We did not get it done. We didn't win the national title, but we traveled all over the country. We went to UCLA, Arizona State, Colorado, Boston College. Places everywhere, and it was great. And that commitment level is certainly less than scholarship lacrosse, but they practice 3 times a week, and so it's a big commitment.
And you were that parent that complained so much about the way things were going that they asked you to coach.
Yeah, ironically enough, I've been fortunate enough to coach Ryan since 3rd grade all the way through high school. I did not coach her collegiately, and she graduated last year, and she's moved on to grad school, but. You build relationships, and they thought I would bring some value if I would come help them coach this year, and I did.
At the University of Georgia.
At the University of Georgia.
Never played lacrosse in your life, and now you're assistant coach at the University of Georgia.
Yeah. So we just finished up last week at the national tournament. We finished 3rd. We lost to Boston College, who is kind of the thorn in our side. They won the national title again, and we lost to them in the semifinals this year. Wow. So, but with University of Georgia, go Dogs, 17-1 this year. Wow. Only losses in the semis. Wow.
So where's your level of passion, Rhett? If you talked about, I guess you're looking for a home, would you give up your real estate career and go coach at LSU?
I don't think so yet. I think
if the right person came knocking, you might.
maybe. But I love the sport. But I think the difference between when you play and when you coach is it's a choice. I mean, it's still a choice then, but when I'm practicing 5 days a week at a certain level, that's not a choice. That's kind of a demand versus now I get to go have fun, get to kind of see a different aspect of the game. And also just, investing in kids, right? I mean, that's what makes our community so special is I think it's family oriented and it's a safe place. And I would like to think that I can make a positive impact on these kids. So.
Well, I did. I tried to do some research. I'm trying to be a professional podcaster. So I tried to do some research on you. And I asked a lot of people about your lacrosse career. And everyone just spoke of how incredible of a lacrosse player was. It wasn't like, oh, yeah, I remember him. It was lots of accolades. But college did not go the way you wanted it to go. And I'd love to dive into that discussion because the same type of things happened to my nephew. So tell us what happened going to college so that people know, hey, this, you got to look out for yourself and know what's going on.
Yeah, I was blessed enough to go on a couple of visits to UMass and Delaware, and I had some other schools that I didn't entertain as much, but it was a cool experience to go up there. But I was 1 year younger than his daughter, so COVID kind of hit, and then those COVID years came out. So they were extending, graces to those people, let them play an extra year. So I think a lot of those coaches were kind of on the fence on some things and decided, I already know what I got, so I'll just stick with that. Because lacrosse is tough for scholarships. I think they probably carry a 30, 40-man roster, and they get 13 full scholarships, so they divide it amongst the players. And I also shot myself in the foot. I didn't take school quite seriously enough and didn't have the best GPA. So I think that when you go play at a high level, it's mostly northerner schools.
Well, and not to interrupt, but what you find out too on the lacrosse side of things is a lot of these schools give academic money versus athletic money. Yeah. So for anybody that's interested in playing lacrosse in college and being at a scholarship school like that, you do have to really put a lot of time and effort into your academics because that's where the money's going to come from in most cases. It just is.
And I guess it just gives you more options too, because if you, there's schools that won't, unless you're just extremely dynamic, you're not going to get into certain schools just because of your athletic skills. But if you're carrying the academics, then that might be a reason for them to pull you along.
Yeah, I think from a coach's perspective, it's a risk, right? If I'm taking this kid that's got the same level, but I got a kid with a 3.8 or 2.8, how am I going to know this kid can even qualify to play for the season? And Liam Banks and them always tell me just be good enough, and they'll always open that avenue for you. And I did have the avenue kind of open. It was shut on me a little bit. Yeah. But I think that's why you just keep your options open. I mean, I had the opportunity to go play at Tampa, and I chose not to, which probably would have been a blast. But they were D2, they weren't D1. I kind of always tell myself if I was going to play, it would have been the real deal. So
Yeah. So you had a scholarship offer, and then they pulled it at the last minute. Is my understanding is that
pulled it at the last minute? I went, entertained it, and there was talks, and then I kind of think more or less the phone just never rang back.
Okay.
So there was talks, and I didn't receive anything in writing or anything like that.
Right.
But I think once those COVID years hit,
So just interest, yeah.
And he had an important thing because you hear it collectively through all sports, not just lacrosse, but particularly in your secondary sports. That COVID, where they got extra eligibility, changed everything. There were a lot of high school seniors that otherwise would have got opportunities in all different sports, didn't get those opportunities because they chose for those kids to hang on an extra year. So it definitely changed the dynamic. And, I think it's finally beyond that where it's getting back to where most kids go in and play their 4 years or 4 and 5 and they're gone. Right. So, but that was a big deal, not just in Rhett's experience, which is ultimately a lot of things. I don't want to speak for him, but
yeah. And I agree. I mean, maturity level too. I mean, the difference between me at 18 and 22 is
huge.
Huge. So, I mean,
100%.
I don't.
You hadn't had your first beer yet. You didn't know what to.
Right.
I know. So, well, let's talk about. I just coached soccer, and I was an assistant coach. So I'm pretty much the smart ass in the back that's just like, make them do push-ups, make them run. They're not listening, and the coach is trying to get something done. But what do you think is how do kids respond now? Because every generation talks about how the next generation doesn't work hard, or you're soft, or you don't, What would you say? You've coached recently, and you're now coaching. How do coaches respond? What is the parents' activity like? Are these kids coachable now?
I'll let you go first.
I think,
and I know they're all different.
I think in a lot of ways, in my experience, has been there's a lot made of that, but I think it's about the relationship. I think at the end of the day, kids, for the most part, are still kids at their core. There's always going to be some challenges, particularly from the parental side of things. But my philosophy has always been pretty simple: is when we cross that line or practice starts or whatever, I'm there for a specific purpose, and my job is not to be your friend. My job is to help you get better, hold you accountable, teach you a level of discipline, and that's the role. However, when practice ends and we step over that white line, that's the personal relationship and as long as that line is maintained and drawn clearly, I think kids really respond well to that. At least that's been my experience. Coaches that I have a lot of respect for tend to go that route too, where they just draw that line. There's a time to work and there's a time to love, and you just got to know the difference. And to this day, you always look back on things and you would change them ever so slightly. But, a lot of kids, as I talked about earlier, have grown up in the life skills and the things that you learn through playing team sports is the biggest giver. It really is the best teacher, in my opinion. I think every kid should play team sports. Just find the one that you like the best and get life lessons out of it. So, that's...
No, I agree. And everyone's personality is different. What works for me and what works for you and what works for you is
100%.
So I think that's the challenge I've had coaching the past couple of years. If I have 1 year with this kid, by the time the end of the year, I figured out what drives you.
Right.
Yeah.
And recently, my dad kind of bribed me to do some things. So I always do gift cards. Like I'll do a $25 Fortnite gift card. That's Xbox or PS5. Or this year I did Ben and Jerry pints for the defense if they went and hit someone finally. But find what motivates the kids is probably the biggest thing, right?
Yes.
And I do feel like sometimes some of these kids are kind of forced into the role that they're playing, which kind of will make it a little more challenging to coach them if they don't want to be there.
Yeah, because that was my experience with soccer, and I was trying to figure out, like I had a kid that left, so we practiced 2 nights a week. One of the nights he left halfway through practice to go to tennis practice. And his eyes lit up when it was time to leave to go to tennis practice. So I could tell that was his passion.
Yep.
But then you think about, okay, I still got to coach him. His parents still, he's 11, 12 years old. So how do you motivate that kid that's just out there because his mom signed him up, or they just want to be active? Do you just let them kind of run around in circles, or do you still try to push them in? Because you never know when it clicks for them and they want to be great at lacrosse.
Well, sometimes you're just not ready. Meaning like a kid at 8 years old to play lacrosse may not be ready for a lot of things, the physicality or any of that. And then at 10 or 12, they try it again and they love it. And they're just at a different place in their journey, right? Honesty is huge to me. Like in that scenario, I would probably have a conversation with a kid on the side and just be like, hey, I noticed how excited you were to go to tennis the other night. Tell me about tennis a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if he opens up to you about that and you respond well to that, then you can have a conversation about lacrosse. Well, what do you want out of this? And a lot of times they'll be honest with you. Oh, I'm playing because my parents want me to. Or, I like it, but I just don't love it like I do tennis, or whatever the reasoning is. You gotta get them to open up to you a little bit to get the true answer. So,
right. Well, I think confidence is a big part of it. I think
sure.
Some of these kids in soccer, like I could see, okay, you're athletic enough, but you're just not very good at soccer. But if you wanted to be good at soccer, you could. And I think convincing a kid, and one thing I think I invented it. Y'all can take credit if you want or use it. But I always said, like, I could never be an NBA basketball player, but I could be 10% better at basketball than I am right now. And that's what I kept telling Max. No. But like whatever you're doing, whether it's math, whether it's real estate, whether it's whatever it is, I ain't gonna lie to my kid and tell him, if you try hard, you're gonna make the high school soccer team. No, but you can be 10% better than you are right now. And maybe a year you get 10 more percent, then you don't know where you're gonna be at that point. But convincing him that that's actual possible. Like if you would just go kick the ball in the backyard for 10 minutes, you might be better, because the better we are, the more we enjoy sports.
Right. You need that intrinsic drive, though. Like they've got to find something about whatever it is they're doing, and doesn't have to be a sport, that makes them want to spend that 10 or 15 minutes getting better. And, at the end of the day, it's everybody finding their journey. Lacrosse may not always be that for some folks, right? So
a lot of times it's just friendships. And we know a lot of kids just play because their friends are playing.
There's a social aspect to that question about all sports.
So it's important to make those events fun. I think that's why they stress it, is the before and the after, and the, not beating your kid up if they're not good, or, just making sure that they're enjoying what they're doing if you truly want them to stick around. Because that's been a big struggle for us, because I don't know that my kids are going anywhere on scholarships, but I surely want them to continue playing and being competitive.
Yeah, they can get so much more out of it.
Yeah.
And it's the why piece, right? It's kids are there for different reasons, and if you got to be who you are on the field because you have a purpose, but off the field you can connect with those kids. And like you said, that kid hangs around for a couple of years, all of a sudden it clicks for them. Particularly with boys, you get to middle school and testosterone kicks in, and that's an entirely different kid than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, and girls on that side of things, they're a little more social. I mean, they just are. They need that maybe more so. Now I can speak to the guy part because of me playing sports. I find over the years that girls need the social piece to continue pushing forward, to be better on the athletic field and build those connections. So you got to do things outside of practice that they want to spend time with each other.
Yeah.
So it's different.
All right, so let's shift gears to real estate. So let's have a little transition here. So you were highly successful at lacrosse, competitive sports. You've always been good at sports, even though you didn't play anything in high school, but obviously you coached it, and it's competitive to be a coach, and you found a high level of success. But you both are highly successful at your careers as well. You came back and joined your mom and have just blown up. Your mom was already successful, but at least visually, y'all are at another level. And you have had a business that you ran to a point where you were able to sell it off, retire, and then now you've created 2 more income opportunities. So y'all have both found success. How do you tie those together? Or what's the correlation between sports and just success in that? Like what do you think translated for you that has made you find success in real estate?
I think it's the delayed gratification of it. I mean, it's like the gym, anything else that you do in life. It's like, hey, I know if I put the work in now, like I'll get something out of it. And like you said, it's the journey. And so I think when you find success in sports or books or whatever it is, you're always going to pull something from that, which is going to add value somewhere else in life. You just don't see it right off the bat. And for me, it was, I know that if I go, now it's to the gym, but if I go to the gym every day and eat clean, I'll get this look and I get this mental clarity that I wouldn't have otherwise. And Tanya told me Dan Forsman was the CEO of Berkshire at the time, but if any D1 or D anything, it was a collegiate athlete came and applied to have a job at Berkshire Hathaway, he immediately hired them.
Yeah.
Because that's the level of commitment. You know what it takes to reach success.
Right.
And I think sports opens that avenue for kids because if it's still fun, it gives you an avenue to, I mean, it's almost networking within itself. I guess kids don't think of it that way, but
Sure.
and I know my mom got a ton of business from me playing sports.
Yeah.
So I think that gets you in the community. You understand what success is. It's measurable. I think measurable success is huge, setting markers. And I think that's kind of what you can pick up from sports itself.
Yeah.
It translates into business and all aspects of life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're hitting a lot of things. You're learning how to work with people. You're learning that I can kill myself and work hard, but if the person next to me doesn't,
We still lose.
you still lose.
Yep.
So team building, and obviously I'd love that delayed gratification. I don't think we talk about that enough, even in self-reflection, but also kind of promoting that to our kids is that, because a lot of times we do try to get that answer and we know that videos are getting shorter because everybody wants that instant
Yep.
dopamine. And sometimes you got to go to the gym for a while. And then that one day when you see that extra little cut,
Uh-huh.
I remember when I got an ab when I was like 19, went from 1 to 2. It was
Yeah.
great. It was a big day.
Uh-huh.
It was a big
Yeah.
day. So do you have any input on that, Mr. King?
I'm probably going to touch on some nerves here, but I just think it has a lot to do with sports gives you the opportunity to face adversity. And I don't know that as a society, just in what I notice anymore, we do a great job of letting our kids fail a little bit. And I think sports do a great job. Sports don't care. Sports aren't prejudiced. They allow you to go play, and you got to learn how to deal with the successes of the competition and the failures of competition. And I think it's such a good, it prepares people for really what life is. It's about successes and failures, and how you manage both of those things is how you keep moving forward in your career, in your relationship, spiritually, whatever it may be. So I love the fact that there's still a place to go get adversity,
Yeah.
you know,
And sports aren't fair
no, 100%
either,
not.
because sometimes you can do your best and you still lose.
Well, it's a prime example of, for the most part, there are stations. If you work harder than everybody, or you spend more time outside of practice doing things, that is a precursor to being successful. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily more talented than somebody else. So
Right.
in life, you're going to see people that do a lot less work than you, but maybe you're more talented in what you do, and they have that success. And here you have to work really hard to earn every inch you get, but you still want to move forward. And that's the point behind it. Is life isn't fair, sports isn't fair, so it allows you an opportunity to get that failure in. I mean, you need to fail along the way, because that's how we, in my opinion, how you grow as a person. So same thing in my businesses. It just, it's always like to say, I like to eat. So I got to make money to eat, right? And I mean, I keep it that simple,
And now your kids are gone and you want to travel, or your wife wants to travel, so now you got to work hard.
Yeah, but doesn't mean things get simpler.
No, it does not. It does not. So, Rhett, how are you finding just the success with the branding and just everything with real estate? What's the secret? What are y'all doing that, most successful people? I was also reading another book that talked about most highly successful people share all of their ideas.
100%.
Like, it's the people in the middle that want to keep everything. It's the highly successful people who are like, hey, this is what I did. Go do it. Because they know that you're probably not going to go do it.
Yeah, it's that starvation mentality. I think, there's enough business for everyone in every space that, let's work together and let's both eat instead of me taking all the food for myself, so to speak. But, I have to give a lot of props to my mom. She kind of set the foreground for it, and she made the path a lot easier than it probably would have been on my own, which, I'm super thankful for. She had a lot of success and kind of worked out a lot of things before I got there, and I kind of just got to copycat some things. So I'm definitely thankful for her. I think Berkshire as a whole is just a tight-knit community, and, you can pick up a phone and have someone answer a question for you soon. And I think just knowing where I want to be 5 years from now. I think a lot of people like to live in the moment, which is great.
Right.
But I've always been taught and thought of, what does 5 years look like? And I don't think today me is where I don't want to still be here in 5 years.
Right.
So I think that's my main drive, main motivating factor. Tanya just made it super easy for me to come in. And I think sports again, and watching her work through since I was a kid, I just understood that it's hard work at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you just put in the time and you get to reap the benefits.
So I just thought of another question. It just hit me. Both of you are male real estate agents. There's not a whole lot of men selling real estate. So what attracts you to real estate, and is that, I wouldn't call it a barrier, but do you find any problems with that, or is it just, don't even notice? Like, why are there not more men selling real estate, especially young men?
Well, I say commercial would probably be more male dominated, but I think that's more transactional, in my opinion. And I think women, like you said, with lacrosse, they're more relationship based. And if I'm meeting with a widow and she has to sell her house, Tanya's probably gonna be a lot better at connecting with her than a man walking in. That's just, that's just how it's gonna be. But I just always said I couldn't sit at a desk all day, and I like talking about other people and figuring out how people make money has been the most interesting thing to me, because there's ways to make money doing anything. So, and again, I saw the success that Tanya had in it, so that was also a little bit of a driving motivating factor for me too.
Yeah, a great role model to have.
Yeah.
So the art of negotiation. Any keys to negotiating real estate? How do you help? I don't know. I don't know if this is. I think it's a pretty even market right now. It's not. I don't think it's flipped to a buyer's market just yet, but it's sure leaning that way, which tells me you got to be a little bit skilled at negotiating. Because you said 2 years ago you weren't able to negotiate anything, so you didn't even have to be good at it.
Right.
But now you're right there in the middle, maybe even leaning towards a buyer's market. What differentiates you from other real estate agents in being able to get the people the best deal or the best advice or negotiating the contract? Because that's where you earn your money, is not in finding somebody the perfect home, because we can all do that online, but in actually negotiating the price and making sure that deal goes to closing, and make sure that they know what they might not know.
But we need you to get the rates down low first. But I'd say the financial side, that's all you, right?
Yeah.
That's on you. But I think we always approach it as a win-win philosophy. I want the buyer to feel like he won, and I want the seller to feel like he won. I feel like if you approach it that way, then we can all meet in the middle, and we're all happy, because obviously you want to sell your house, and they want to buy a house. So if we all have that philosophy going into it, then I feel like we'll be smooth the whole way, and I think that's the way we always approach it is, we're all going to the same table, so let's all eat together and let's move forward.
Well, I think it's perfect. I think, I was having a talk with somebody on the mortgage side today, and his advice to me was like, he literally said, "Why are you so emotional?" He's like, "This is what's got to happen. This is what he needs to do. This is the advice you want to give him. Why are you throwing all these emotions?" I was like, "I don't know." He was like, "Just give him the options."
Yeah.
And I followed his advice, and it went perfectly. The customer responded and was like, "Man, thank you for breaking that down." And that was a big deal for me to actually just, treat it like, it's information. Mm-hmm. We're just buying and selling a house. And sometimes you do have to remove the emotion out of whether you're the buyer or the seller. We know that you've been living in that house for 30 years and your baby was born in the bathtub, but, that doesn't mean anything to the person that's coming to buy it.
Right.
So I think removing some of the emotion can help you negotiate on both sides.
If you can do that.
It's difficult.
There's one only. You can do that, but does the client also respond to that
right.
too? And it's mostly just listening, communicating, and I find if I'm consistent in that behavior, owning my businesses allowed me to negotiate several things skill wise, but at the end of the day, if you ask the right questions and you listen to the responses, they'll tell you what's important to them. And as long as you can get to what's important to them, that's how a deal gets done. Your clients have a certain set of expectations and priorities. The other client has a set of, priorities. And if you can, as Rhett said, if you can put those two things together, then that's how a transaction closes. Yeah. So just try not to make it any more complicated. That, like you said, it's you want to buy a house and I want to sell you a house, or vice versa.
Yeah. And they know what they want. It's just like you said, give them the options, and then letting them make that decision, an educated decision for themselves.
Right.
That's mainly our job, and then we take the emotion out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's answer some questions. You do not have to go into depth, just really quick. So, do or do not, it doesn't matter. What would be your go-to karaoke song if you had to sing? I know it. Oh, God, I love that song.
John Deere Green by Joe Diffie.
No, it isn't. It's Whitney Houston.
Oh, well, no.
It's Greatest Love.
I need to do that for that one. That's not a solo solo karaoke machine.
Time travel. Would you go in the past or the future?
Past.
Past.
I don't want to see the future.
Yeah, I know. Most used emoji.
Um,
I don't even have an answer to that because I use them all.
yeah, I don't either. I would say, thumbs up probably, to be honest with you, just
Yeah,
because
that's
that's,
easy. Is there an app that on your phone you use way too much?
I mean, I wouldn't say I use it too much, but Spotify probably, podcasts, and just music.
Yeah.
And I'm a Pandora guy, so I listen, that's the route I go.
So how much
Old school,
podcast do
right?
you listen to? Because I wish that if I had advice for my 21-year-old self, it would have been to listen to more podcasts, which obviously they didn't have them. But now books are on tape, and I'm just like, I get so much knowledge, like from podcasts, from books, from different YouTube groups. It's just incredible the amount of information I absorb nonstop. Do you do that? Is that just because I'm getting older, or is that just because it's available?
I do it the same way. People say I'm weird all the time because I'll sit there and if they have a video, I watch them talk. I don't know why I like to watch them talk, but I'd say Joe Rogan's more for like recreational conspiracy theories and stuff. And then Modern Wisdom with Chris Williams is probably the most. He's like a young guy, used to be a club promoter and all that stuff, and just hits the topics of why men should be kind of men, and then brings on the opposite side, and you kind of just get to hear people talk. I feel like today every conversation's an argument, not a conversation. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I feel like they kind of break that down and just have conversations.
Okay. If you were a ghost, would you be a friendly ghost or a scary ghost? Or a pervert?
I'd probably be friendly.
Yeah.
I'd probably be friendly.
I think there's a mix there. You can be friendly but still scare the crap out of people.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like just laugh.
It depends on who I'm having an encounter with.
Right.
Now, are we talking you specifically?
Yeah. I love the show. Have y'all watched the show Ghosts? I love it because those ghosts are tied to the house. So all the different people that have died in the house are there. So it could be somebody that's been there 300 years. A girl got mauled by a bear before there was a house there.
Is this like the Jennifer Love Hewitt?
No, it's on Paramount. It's a TV show.
Oh, I don't know.
It's great. It is really. I think it's on Paramount. No, it's like a kind of a comedy, but it's just funny because they're all
not familiar with that one.
They're all through the different ages. Like there's a lady that's antebellum that speaks all proper, and there's a caveman and an Indian, and it's funny. And then they're all in this house, and they can't leave because they're tied to the house, and they interact. And one of the ladies that buys this bed and breakfast bumps her head and can see them, but her husband and nobody else can. So to watch them interact it's neat. It's an entertaining comedy. It's fun. It's called Ghost. All right, now I got a game. We're going to finish up with a game. So David, you want to step out first?
Sure.
This is an old game. Just try not to listen, okay? I know you're not going very far. Okay. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds.
Okay.
And you got to name as many things under the sea as you can in 10 seconds.
There
are no rules.
Okay.
There are 0 rules.
Okay.
All right, do you know what I mean by there's no rules?
Yeah.
10 seconds, and I don't have my watch. Let's see if this was. I'm going to set this. Hey, Siri, start timer for 12 seconds.
Coral, submarines, whales, dolphins, fish, thongs, paper plates, paper towels, everything China dumps in the ocean, so that's a lot.
All right, good job. All right, David, come on.
Not too bad. You need me to get up too?
Yeah, well, no, you can stay. You already know the game. I just didn't want him to hear the question, be able to prepare.
He's thinking of it right now.
Yeah, so this is an old. I hope that didn't stop the recording, but I did that.
You had a lot of good ones.
Do you remember this game, David?
Not specifically, no.
So this is from, I think, 96 Rock. Oh, good, it did it on the other phone. 96 Rock did this. And whenever they interview a guest, they gave him 10 seconds to name as many things under the sea, like fish and anything under the sea. And that was just how they ended every single show. And it was funny because some people would just be like, it was always famous people that just froze. So, all right, you got 10 seconds. Siri, set timer for 10 seconds.
Boats, planes, fish, sharks, whales, coral, rocks, sand, trash, good enough, octopus.
All right, good. I didn't count, so I will do that in just a second. I think I got off with my fingers. I ran out of fingers. I didn't stop the timer. So, all right. Well, thank y'all very much. Anything y'all are working on right now that you want? I should have done this before the annoying timer sound that's probably ringing in the phone. Anything y'all are working on or involved in that's not real estate or lacrosse that you want to talk about?
No, just I'm ready for summertime.
Yes.
Just
Lakes.
That's love my lake season. It's time.
All right.
I know, we'll see you out there. We got a new Shane Tank, got a new pontoon boat. So.
Sweet, come over and see the new dock.
Oh yeah, did you sell the old one?
Yeah, I donated it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, how nice of you.
All right. So we got Rhett and David both with Berkshire Hathaway. And David with also is area manager for
Aero Exterminators.
Air
Business Development.
Exterminators.
Yeah.
So if you need a lacrosse coach or any advice, because David's been the area, what were you, like the president of the Lacrosse Association or something?
Yeah, I'm going to hand it off at the end of June. It's been almost 15 years.
Awesome. Wow. Well, thank you for your service. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you very much.
for
All
having
right.
us.
Have a good day. Oh my God.
Be interesting to see which clips you
It's
choose.
so hot in here.